does 3 straight losses to Michigan mean Ryan Day will not be the head coach at Ohio State next year? And speaking of coaches, there are a lot of college coaches that are going to the NFL in this upcoming season, and we are going to tell you which ones are going to make that move. Plus, Kenny Pickett, he is struggling as an NFL quarterback, and we are going to show you exactly why. Coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who decided today he could text like a 17-year-old boy, my dad, Tim.
Excuse me?
What did you text me today? Let me set this up, actually. Let me set this up. You text me, hey, what time do you want to meet to record this show? I gave you said time, and your response back to me was...
Okay.
No.
I did what I do when I talk to your sister. I go, KK.
You are 62 years old.
I am not 62 yet. It's not.
Okay.
You're
you are
angry.
62 in 2 weeks.
You're very
You
angry.
are too old to text like a 17-year-old. What are you doing? It didn't help taking the headphones off. You're right next to me. I still heard the damn thing. Listen.
So Michigan won this weekend for
Yeah,
the third year in a row.
They cheated.
They didn't
I
cheat.
mean, they clearly cheated.
They did not cheat.
Clearly paid off the refs. That was not a touchdown.
Oh, wait a minute. Since we started this show, we've made the decision. We're not going to be just like fans all the time. We're going to be above this. You are so fanning right now.
I'm not. I'm being above this.
You are not
and
being above it.
Stating clearly that the touchdown was not a touchdown. For those of you that didn't see
Oh,
it,
my
I can't
God.
show it on this show, but I can speak about it. You should go back and look at it. There was a touchdown in the end zone of the Ohio State-Michigan game where the ball was clearly knocked out of his hands before the end zone.
No.
He was holding it like this, didn't fully have control.
He had
As he's
control.
going down to the ground, the Ohio State guy grabs it out of his hand and intercepts the ball.
Okay. Well done.
Ohio State ball on the 25-yard line.
Well done, Ohio fanboy.
Nope.
Yes.
That
That was a touchdown. He had the ball in control
not
as
a
it crossed
touchdown.
the end zone.
Listen, the last drive, and I'll give you this one. We missed a field goal that would have tied up the game.
You did?
Towards the end. That was a bad miss. Why people do practice kicks before kicking the ball, it never works out. Have you noticed that, though? Anytime somebody does a practice kick after a timeout's called, they always seem to miss it on the second try. They either miss it on the first try or miss it on the second try. Why even bother doing it? So we missed that field goal. At the end of the game, listen, Kyle McCord is not a good college football quarterback right now. He's just not. He is the Achilles heel of Ohio State. We have a really good team and a really bad quarterback.
I will say this. If C.J. Stroud is the quarterback of that Ohio
We
State team,
destroy him.
they beat Michigan fairly
Destroy
easily.
him. And that last interception where McCord got hit, I mean, that was just a good play by Michigan. Ohio State decides to start throwing the ball after we run it down their throats for whatever reason. But it doesn't change the fact that in the first half, if that touchdown is called an interception like it's supposed to be and should have been after review, Ohio State wins the game.
And I will admit this pains me to play that fight song because I like I'm Wisconsin, obviously, who the axe is
Hail
back
to
where
the
it belongs.
victors, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, that is the Michigan fight song. It is the worst fight song in college football history.
Well, it was
is
great for me.
obnoxious.
I loved it
It is
last weekend
annoying.
because I love anytime
this-
Ohio State loses.
This piece of human trash is cheering for
Wow.
Michigan as they're scoring the touchdown
I-
against your son, good sir.
I don't like Ohio State. I never have.
Because you don't like national championship programs. I get it.
Really like when they played Miami.
Yeah, when we won it. The
Oh,
national
that's right.
championship.
Miami almost.
They
Trying to
questionable
come up-
pass interference call.
Yeah.
But we
Very
won. That's-
questionable.
Hey, it's the game that made
Oh,
me
really?
an
So
Ohio
that
State
one-
fan.
Uh-huh. Anyways, so Wisconsin also played this weekend. They won the Axe back.
Yep.
I
They're looking better.
they're looking better, but I will say this to all the people in our area who are saying it was not a successful year and blah, blah, blah. Luke Fickell, had no talent coming in. They had to rely on Braylon Allen as soon as Ches Malusi went down. That was a huge loss.
Yep.
So Braylon Allen carried that team, and they were basically playing Berry ball.
Yep.
And they ended up
Berry ball is running the ball
yes.
24/7.
Behind a huge offensive line, which we don't have right now. Although the line played better.
Because they're getting stronger. You actually have a strength program.
Right. And they'll probably go to a...
Wisconsin, under Paul Chryst last year, did not have a strength program. That's the big thing Luke Fickell came in and changed, was he brought in a strength program.
A very defined and very regimented strength program.
They're in the weight room all the time.
And Wisconsin, I heard today, may go to the Music City Bowl in Nashville, which, whatever.
Got a bowl game,
which
is
more
than I expected them to do.
I was expecting 6 wins. They got to 7. Got the Axe back, which in Wisconsin land, the Axe is everything. To beat Minnesota. That's their big game.
It is.
I'm worried, though. I'm actually very worried because
I'm excited.
Ryan Day's lost 3 years in a row to Michigan.
Can't do that and keep your job in Ohio State. You just can't.
He's probably going to go to the NFL. They're calling Luke Fickell.
Oh, 100%.
After 1 year at Wisconsin.
Because if you're Ohio State and this is the chance that you can get Luke Fickell.
It's the only chance.
Right now. This is the only chance you'll have. Because Luke Fickell will establish a program at Wisconsin. And it's like Barry Alvarez, who was the coach of Wisconsin beforehand. Barry Alvarez was called by Nebraska after his 4th year at Wisconsin when he had just finished building that program. And he said, no, because I know what I have here. I'm not going to build this program, hand it off to somebody else to win with it, and then I'm going to go and rebuild in Nebraska. It's not going to happen. Barry Alvarez went to Nebraska, played college football at Nebraska. Luke Fickell's the same thing. If you call him after year 4, year 5, or even next year when he's starting to build the program, when he's starting to see the fruits of his labor, he's not going to then go to Ohio State and then let somebody else win with the program he built to not know what he's going to at Ohio State.
And I think a big part of this right now, the NIL is going to enter into it because you don't know what you get. Everybody is moving around.
Yeah.
He'll be a player in that. He'll get good guys to come to Wisconsin, and it'll be a better team next year.
If you're Wisconsin now, Luke Fickell is an extremely stand-up guy, which is why if you're Wisconsin, you shouldn't be worried. He asked for a lot from Wisconsin. Yes. He's like, you have to build a new practice facility. You have to do this. You have to do that. And they've done all of it. He's not like Lane Kiffin at Tennessee. Yeah. Thank you for reading my mind. He's not like Lane Kiffin at Tennessee who said all that and then left the next year. He's not that type of guy. He moved his entire family out to Wisconsin, which is a big deal. But
if there's any chance to get him to go to Ohio State, it's right now this year.
Right now's the time.
Yeah. I don't think he's going. I'm praying.
I don't either, but I'm excited at the idea that he could.
I know. I've talked to fans and people that live by Luke over in the Madison area, and he's a different cat than what they're used to. He's not the kind of guy that's going to talk to you, have small talk whenever he sees you.
No.
He's a CEO.
Yes.
He goes in, gets his business done, and on the way he goes.
I don't have time to talk to fans. I have a football program to run.
Correct.
It's him 24/7, and if he's not at the football program, he's spending time with his family.
And that doesn't mean he's not a good guy, because I think Luke Fickell is a very good guy.
He's like, hey, I'm here working, or I'm spending time with my family.
Right.
Like, that is as good of a guy as you get.
And Madison's different than Green Bay, because Green Bay leaves all those players alone.
Yeah, Madison doesn't. Unless you're Barry Alvarez, but how long did Barry Alvarez have to be an ass on the street before people realize you just leave him alone?
He just had to establish the Barry Mafia.
Yeah.
And then he was fine.
And trust me, it was alive and well and still is in that area.
I am, in honor of Luke Fickell, wearing the vest with...
Who is in honor of? He learned to wear a vest from...
I don't know. He's doing it in Madison as a Badger. That's all I care about.
Jim Tressel, who wore it at...
I don't know.
Ohio State, where he won a national championship.
I will also say, I feel bad for Longo because he does not have the
coordinator. Phil Longo, offensive coordinator for Wisconsin.
Right. He does not have the talent. Mordecai was good this year. I give him credit for coming.
Starting running back for the Wisconsin.
No, he's a starting quarterback.
Starting quarterback. I'm sorry.
Broke
trying to fill in gaps because not everybody knows the players
I
we're
know.
talking about.
Okay, well, and I count on you to do that for me. Tanner Mordecai, quarterback for the Badgers, started off very well.
Yep.
Broke his bone in his thumb, and came back and played. Came back and played.
He did.
And did very well.
Well, it's his last year in college
He's
football.
not going to be here next year.
No, this was his last year of eligibility in college football.
I think Braylon Allen is going to announce he's going to go into the transfer portal. I know where I'd go if I were him.
The Ohio State University. It's that or Michigan.
I don't know where.
Transfer. Those are the schools you go to.
Yeah, because it's not going to be this offense next year. They're not playing. They won't. They're going to get wide receivers.
You're going to have Nick Evers come in, and he's going to really start to show off a little bit, I think. Right. You have a lot more wide receivers coming in. You have new running backs coming in. Luke Fickell needed Braylon Allen this year to be competitive. He does not need him next year.
Well, Braylon Allen's a great talent. He would be a 6th-round pick in the NFL draft, so I don't.
Right now.
Yeah, I don't think if you're Braylon Allen, you should go into the NFL draft at all.
Ohio State behind those big old running back or big old offensive linemen, rack up a bunch of yards, and become a 1st-round pick.
See, if I were him, I would go to the SEC, to a Georgia.
If you'll take him, but if you're looking for a place where you can start and just start running, it's Ohio State.
Would you go to Ohio State if you went to Wisconsin for 3 years?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Because it's Big Ten.
So
You've got loyalty to the Badgers.
What's loyalty in college football?
Depending on what the NIL is going to pay you at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. There is no loyalty in football. College football became famous, or not famous, became popular because of state pride, right? Ohio State was Ohio's team. You had pride versus Michigan. You had that battle. Wisconsin and Minnesota have always had that weird thing. And so when they faced each other, it was
weird
thing.
It's the longest rivalry in football still. Not the longest consecutive, but this is like the 138th game. What was amazing, they were 62 and 62 and 8.
Harvard, Yale, and Army and Navy are both older rivalries.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They 100% are. Harvard and Yale was the first college football game.
But they're the East Coast eggheads. They don't count. They don't play football.
They 100% do.
No.
You could say the same thing about Army and Navy.
That's America's game. That's a different deal. That's
okay.
That's a different deal.
You have to be real smart to get into Army and Navy academies, West Point and Annapolis.
Or Colorado Springs Air Force.
Yeah, you also probably have to be smarter to get into the Air Force. Nah, that's not true. You have to be just smart all the way around.
Yeah.
Any of them. Those are the smartest of the smart people going to Army, Navy, and Air Force, and even the Coast Guard Academy.
And the Coast Guard and the Space Coast, obviously, is at Air Force now. So
it is. It's still Air Force Academy, though. But there used to be that. Now there's so many people coming from different places. Like, it's still state pride for the people, but for the players, it doesn't make a difference. And like you said, with the NIL, who's going to pay me the most
to
go to your school? And
I will
for the transfer portal, it is what it is. I don't mind it for the transfer portal. I still hate it for college recruiting from high school. It bothers me because you haven't earned anything.
Yeah, I do not think Arch Manning finishes his career in Texas.
Well, he just went into the game in a blowout and looked real good.
He did, and he's going to be offered a lot of money to go and play someplace else.
Clint Ewers is leaving. He's the starting quarterback at Texas next year.
I get it, and Texas has got a lot of money, though. Right. Make sure he gets paid. But I think a lot of these...
He came to Texas to play in the SEC.
And he's going to
start in the SEC next year.
Yes. And he's the guy you want to leave because he did look really,
you also
really
have
good.
People like Arch Manning, you have Eli, and you have Peyton that all earn their way to one school. If it's legacy, he's not going
Well, and don't forget
Texas. He's going to be fine.
Don't forget the original Peyton Manning, Archie Manning.
I said Archie Manning. That was the first name I said.
I thought you said Peyton and Eli. I
said Arch, Eli, Peyton.
Oh, when I think of Arch, I think of the guy at Texas, not Archie.
That's fair.
The grandfather.
That's fair. I said Arch twice, to be fair. Yeah. But they all stayed at the same school. They all went. Archie Manning, the senior of the group, has a really intense story on him staying at Ole Miss. And so if he can battle it out, trust me, he's going to tell his kid, listen, I stayed in school after my dad died. You're going to stay in school and fight it out at Texas.
Different world.
It is. It is. But I'm a big believer in old school morals. I really am. An old school, like, if somebody's really not giving you a chance to do something someplace and you really have to go and that conversation happens with the coach that I'm not going to start you, transfer. But if it's just you're not willing to battle for a quarterback position, then listen, suck it up. Like, you need to battle for this quarterback position, just like the coaches have to battle consistently for their jobs, which leads to my question. Ohio State just got the Ohio State-Michigan game stolen from them. I don't accept the loss. They clearly stole signs for our other 2 wins. They clearly stole signs and cheated to win this one. None of their wins count. Jim Harbaugh said, I'm going to step down because of new evidence that hasn't been shared, and he all of a sudden accepted it. So there's more evidence out there to show that they cheated.
Did not.
So Michigan's filled with cheaters, and they're being rewarded for being cheating. They should have not been allowed to play football this year.
Would you just stop and come back into reality?
To beat Iowa, and they're going to cheat in the playoffs. I mean, it's just what they do. They're dirty, dirty dogs. So Jim Harbaugh.
Can we please bring this back into the reality world a little bit?
I'm still angry.
I can tell. I will play this fight song.
Somebody said something interesting, and it was Saturday morning. I went to the gym to work out, and on my way home, I was listening to ESPN radio, and I can't remember who said it. A former Ohio State running back, I think it was Beanie Wells. It was Beanie Wells. Beanie Wells, they asked him on a show on Friday, would you rather win a national championship or beat Michigan?
Beat Michigan.
His answer was beat Michigan. And they were going nuts on him not understanding it. And I'm like, listen, say Ohio State sneaks into the playoffs this year. I don't think they do. I think they'll take Oregon over Ohio State at this point.
You think, well, and Florida State is undefeated as well.
Yes. I'm just saying, if you look at the rankings right now, they already have Oregon ahead of Ohio State. And I think that'll stay. I don't think they put Ohio State in the playoffs this year. But if we lose to Michigan and win a national championship this year, it's not going to feel good. It's not, because we still lost to Michigan. I would rather, and I think every Ohio State fan can say this, I would rather lose every game and beat Michigan than win a national championship in the same season we lose to Michigan.
The old Woody Hayes line. They said, why did you go for 2?
They were up 50-14.
Yes.
They went for 2.
And they said, why did you go for 2 when you were up 50-14? And Woody Hayes said,
couldn't go for 3.
Exactly.
I couldn't go for 3.
People don't understand the intensity. And it all started with Woody and Bo Schembechler.
When Bo left, yeah.
Yeah. No love lost at that point. Woody hated Bo for leaving him.
To go to Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just been bad blood, but it's been one of the best rivalries from the 70s. There's some down years in the 80s and 90s, a little bit, but it's been
90s,
tough.
Michigan was the hammer. The 2000s, and most of my fandom for Ohio State was the hammer, Michigan was the nail. And now all of a sudden you have a situation where Michigan cheated to win 3 years in a row. They're like a hammer that kind of hits itself.
Stop
you
with the
cheating.
cheating.
Have to swing with the hammer. It kind of just
people are going to tune out, so let's stop the cheating. All seriousness.
Jim Harbaugh is leaving Michigan.
He is leaving Michigan.
And I think a lot of other college coaches, and I can think of 3 specifically.
Well, what do you think about Ryan Day? Is he going to leave?
Ryan Day is going to leave. One, you don't lose to a Michigan 3 years in a row and keep your job. That's just not how it's ever worked. You can't do it. I get he beat Michigan a lot of other times, but here's why Ryan Day's not going to keep his job at Ohio State. If you look at the play calling of that game, especially towards the end, Ohio State runs it down the field. Their running game is working. And all of a sudden, a light falls in the background and makes a big boom. But if you look at it, all of a sudden he starts passing again. When you have plenty of time, you have like 7 minutes left, and you end up going 3 and out, still behind. And then you have the situation where Zinter goes down. The offensive guard for Michigan gets hurt, leg blown out. The Ohio State player is being consoled by Michigan coaches, which is absolutely not acceptable, by the way. Be a man. It happens. You did nothing wrong. This is a football game. He's a kid.
He should have went up to Zinter and said, hey.
Right, and get back in the game. But Ryan Day, if you see your player getting consoled by Michigan coaches, take him out of the game. Right. His mind's not in it. And he didn't take him out of the game. And Michigan runs a play the next play to that same player. Yeah. And the gap's wide open. They score a touchdown.
Misses assignment.
Completely lose momentum.
Well, let's talk about some of these coaches that are going to move around, because I'm looking at what you sent me, and I don't agree with where you've got these guys going.
That's fair. I have question marks after all of them.
I don't think Nick Saban is leaving Alabama.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk.
Let's sit here for a second.
He's 72 years old.
He's 72 years old. What does Nick Saban not like to do?
Lose.
Fail. Lose, fail. What did he do at Miami?
He failed.
Right. What is always part of his legacy?
The Miami debacle.
Correct.
He's not leaving.
For a man like that, that sits in your brain and stews.
If
you are looking at a coaching job where you have a player that you won national championships with,
and I don't think he thinks he's an NFL-style quarterback either. Nick Saban.
Could he end up in Carolina?
I don't think so. I don't think he's leaving out. If he were 65, 62, obviously, 65, maybe. But I don't see him leaving Alabama at 72 years old. It'd be like Barry Allen leaving to go into coach when he had an opportunity to go to Houston.
He did.
And he turned him down.
He did.
Because his legacy
he had
was
never failed at the NFL, so why take the chance when you were going to be an AD instead?
I think it was more than that with Barry.
He was about to be the AD of Wisconsin.
He was the AD. He had been comfortable. This was his home.
Right.
He owned Madison.
It's a different ball game here. You have
Nick Saban owns Alabama, Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, but they're having some bad teams. The NIL hurt Nick Saban real bad when it came to recruiting because all of a sudden it's not the allure of going to Alabama, him turning you into a pro, you getting drafted high. It's now, oh, this other school's willing to pay me more. And Nick Saban's not adjusting to that concept well. But you also have a situation, and here's just to kind of detour for a second here. David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, is turning out to be a terrible, terrible owner.
Fired Frank Reich after he made the pick for Bryce Young.
Yeah,
Make no mistake.
David Tepper, because that was our conversation before when we dug into this kind of doing prep for the show, is who made that pick. Because if Frank Reich made that pick of Bryce Young, it makes sense. Like, this kid's not a quarterback. CJ Stroud is looking great when you could have taken him. But as the story's unfolded, it's turning out that Frank Reich wanted to trade back to 2, get some more draft picks back, and take CJ Stroud at number 2 instead. And David Tepper stepped in and said, no, we're taking Bryce Young number 1 overall.
Which is why owners should never make football picks.
No, but this is a guy who got fired from his previous job, ended up starting his own company. Once he became a billionaire, bought the guy who fired him's house and demolished it just because he didn't ever lived in it, never had any intent to live into it, sold the land for less than he bought it for because there's no house there now.
That's a whole new level of spite.
Right. I mean, that's the guy we're talking about here. And this guy's had, since he's owned the team in 2018, he hasn't had a winning season yet. He's gone from quarterback to quarterback to quarterback. He's gone from coach to coach to coach. I mean, this is looking like Al Davis when he was going senile.
Nick Saban wouldn't go and take that job.
Well, and that's the question.
I mean, if I'm Nick Saban, you may want to coach 3 more years, 75.
Or he's a Bear Bryant, where as soon as he's gone, he's dead. Like,
Maybe.
This is just what he is. Tom Landry was the same way. As soon as you're done coaching, you've lost your will to live.
I don't see him going to Carolina. Jim Harbaugh, I've got 3 teams, and you tell me which one you think.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yep.
He played with for the Bears under Ditka.
Good relationship with the McCaskies.
Yep. Vegas, or where I think is the best fit, where he's got a great quarterback at the San Diego.
San Diego doesn't have a team.
They've got a great quarterback.
Yeah, but they play in L.A.
I understand that. They're the second team.
You said San Diego.
Oh, I always say San Diego. They need to go back to San Diego.
Yeah, makes life easier. I don't think he goes to the Chargers. I see why you think that, but the issue is with the Chargers, which we talked about earlier this year, is the Chargers have a very aging talent pool with nothing behind them. They haven't done a good job drafting talent. They have a bad defense.
But they've got a great quarterback.
They do, but you have a receiving core that is past their prime. And they prove it time and time again, and you've done nothing to bring in new talent. So you have to rebuild there. The Bears, Justin Fields looked like, in the first quarter especially, looked like a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Justin Fields is going to not be the quarterback next year. He's going to be
the Bears are going to that he's a quarterback.
The Bears are going to draft a quarterback.
No, they're not. Justin Fields looked great yesterday in the first quarter. The problem is in the second half is he got tired. He is running for his life. He has no time. People are saying he's holding on to the ball too long. He only has 2 seconds to either throw the ball or scramble. Like you can't blame Justin Fields for that. Build your offensive line and you'll be fine. If you get him Marvin Harrison Jr. and an offensive lineman, especially that kid from Notre Dame in the first couple picks, all of a sudden you're giving him a chance to survive. There is no point to draft a quarterback if you're the Bears. Now they will fire Eberflus if they can get Jim Harbaugh. And I think that's where Jim Harbaugh ends up.
I could see it. It's a good fit. Like as you said, he's very close with the McCaskies. There's a good relationship.
Saw Justin Fields because he played against him.
I know.
When he first got there and lost to him.
The problem is current Bears management
right.
is in love with Caleb Williams.
I don't think so. If you're in love with Caleb Williams, you're dumb. Like clearly the kid's not mature enough to run a football team. He's lost 4 games this year after having a big season last year. And he hasn't lost that much talent. In fact, they brought in more talent. It's because his head's not in the game. He's making stupid comments before the season starts, saying, well, I'd want part ownership, and I have teams I'm not going to play for before your season starts. I understand that Eli Manning did that, right? And I understand that John Elway did that as well. But that was after the season. That was after college football. They were focused on the college football season before they were focused on the NFL draft. Caleb Williams talking about that before he's even played his last season that he has to play is a joke.
And by the way, he's had a bad season. He's not winning back-to-back Heismans.
No.
He should have won last year. But if I'm the Bears, I agree with you. They shouldn't draft a quarterback. Give Justin Fields
Bring in Jim Harbaugh.
Chance, and go and get him Marvin Harrison Jr. so he's got a true weapon.
Correct. Jim Harbaugh is 100% going to Chicago. I'd put, if I was a betting man, rewind, if my wife allowed me to gamble, I would put my money on Jim Harbaugh going to Chicago. I think Ryan Day is also going to the NFL, which is where Badger fans have to be nervous because this is the year you could lose Luke Fickell if he is called. I don't think he goes. I'm really excited if he did.
I would
it would make me really happy.
I would boycott the show the day that's announced.
I'm here after Ohio State got cheated. You're going to be here when I get to brag. You just played Hail to the Victors.
I did.
Just to be a jerk. You're not even a Michigan fan. So you will sit here while I play the Ohio State fight song with Luke Fickell coming back to Ohio State if that happens. And you're going to suck it up and deal with it.
He's going to be a Badger legend.
I think so, too. I really do. But Ryan Day is going to go to the NFL, and I could see Ryan Day ending up with the Chargers.
So, okay. If Ohio State needs to hire a new coach, anybody? Are they going to come and get Tressel off of Madison?
Maybe. I don't know.
And Tressel is the defensive coordinator for the Badgers right now.
Who is the son of Jim Tressel. I think they want to avoid the Tressel connection because of what happened at the end of Tressel's time there, which we're not going to get into now because he was wrongfully persecuted. Urban Meyer I could see possibly coming back, but I think that, I don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought into it, honestly. I was just excited to tease you about the fact that it could be Luke Fickell. And haven't really looked around. There's a lot of good college coaches out there. The guy from Duke, he just became the Texas A&M. So that would have been on my list. You could look at a couple different places. I'm calling Deion Sanders, if that's an option.
They're going to go with somebody from the family.
That's what they do.
It is what they do.
So I could see that happening as well. But I could seriously see Ryan Day to the Chargers. I could see Nick Saban if he's going to go to Carolina.
He's not going.
But I could also see him going to Vegas and getting to pick his quarterback.
Who? Nick
Saban.
He's not going any place. He's going to stay in Alabama.
I don't think he is. I really don't.
Wow.
I think it's closer to 50-50 Nick Saban, like if he goes or not. But I think it is 52-48 that he goes to the NFL. It's such a risk. If he goes to the NFL and fails again,
then
so be it. It's not a risk. And then he can go back to college in his 80s, late 70s, early 80s and be a coach.
He's got 3 years left.
He has nothing to prove in college football anymore. In fact, the longer he stays and the more that Alabama starts to fail, which they are right now, the more he has to lose. In fact, he has more to lose staying at Alabama and losing than he does going to the NFL and losing.
I don't think he leaves.
I 100% think he leaves. I do. Like I said, well, I can't say that. I just said 52% he goes to the NFL, 48% he stays, especially if he can go to Vegas where they have building blocks.
Team.
They have a decent team. They need a quarterback, which they can get in the draft, especially if we can get somebody like Drake May, not Caleb Williams. Nick Saban, if there's somebody that can do something with Caleb Williams, I do think it is Nick Saban. But I could see him going to Vegas to the Raiders. You don't think Davis would pay him a lot of money? I don't know how he has any more money with how much he's still paying coaches, but clearly he's willing to spend. He has to pay what? He's on the whatchamacallit. He's on the block. That's the wrong word. He still has to pay John Gruden, I think, for the next 2 years, and that's like $20-something million a year. He has to.
He's on the hook for a lot of these coaches.
Thank you. He's still on the hook for.
I didn't know where you were going.
Josh Daniels. I expect you normally read my mind. He's still on the hook for Josh Daniels for the next few years, and so I don't know where he's going to get the money to do it. But let's be honest, the NFL is
a license to print money, and he's in Vegas.
Read my mind that time. Where were you 5 minutes ago?
Sorry.
And he's in Vegas. He's got his new stadium. Vegas is going to give him whatever he wants, so he'll get the money to pay Nick Saban to go there. And if you're Davis, that's the guy you want.
I just don't see it.
Jim Harbaugh is also. They're on the phone with Jim Harbaugh right now. But I really think he's going to Chicago, especially Eberflus is going to be fired. He's done a really good job with the team he has now, by the way. I got to give him some credit. That defense is looking great. He's a great defensive coordinator. Bring him to Green Bay when he's fired.
But if you can get Harbaugh,
you go get Harbaugh.
You go and get him.
You go get Harbaugh, and he's your head coach. And then if I am Vegas, I am calling Nick Saban and getting him there, giving him control of everything in the same way he did with John Gruden, and I'm bringing him in to win. Nick Saban has more to lose staying in college. Well, here's a question for you.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Say Carolina or Vegas or Chicago or the Chargers call Luke Fickell.
I don't think he's an NFL coach yet. I think he's got work to do in college yet, whether it's hopefully at Wisconsin. He's more of a college guy. I don't see him as a NFL head coach. I just don't. He's kind of building his legacy in college. And
could Jimbo Fisher be a possibility for NFL teams right now?
As a head coach, probably not, but as a coordinator, yeah. I could see that.
I don't know if I can.
I could see, look, Fisher didn't work well in the couple head coaching opportunities he's had. He's done okay. His record was okay, but it wasn't anything fantastic. He never got into the playoffs or anything. I don't see him as a head coach in the NFL. If I'm an NFL team, I'm not going to college. I want to talk to somebody who's in the NFL, who's worked in it. It's a different animal.
I'm just saying, if I can get Nick Saban to Vegas, Jim Harbaugh to Chicago, Ryan Day to the Chargers.
Ryan Day is going to have a hard time. He's never been in the NFL as a head coach. It's going to be a tough transition because NFL is way different. College football is all about the head coach.
It is, but I think there's going to be a conversation at Ohio State that's going to say, listen, we don't want to disgrace you here by firing you. You go find yourself another job.
I'm sure
that's going to lead him into the NFL, and it will lead him into Los Angeles with the Chargers. Because Jim Harbaugh's going to Chicago or Vegas. He's definitely not going to the Chargers.
We'll see.
We'll see. Only time will tell. But the big thing you need in college, or in the pros, I should say, to be successful is to have an NFL quarterback. The Packers are going to re-sign Jordan Love. He is the quarterback for the next 5 years at least. There will be an extension at the end of this season. He's not a bust. He's looking really good.
Jordan Love is not a bust, but I've got so many questions about Jordan Love. No, his long ball is not coaching. He'll
figure it out.
Look at the first pass he threw, and I give him credit for holding his ground against LaFleur so he could throw that, but that was one of the most underthrown balls I've seen. He doesn't hit people in stride downfield. Packers are going to re-sign. I don't know if they extend him or they just let next year play out
They're
and then
definitely gonna
re-sign him.
You have to extend him now.
I don't think you do. I think you can just let him play on that contract for next year.
They're going to extend him. The issue is Matt LaFleur, and we are going to talk about that further. I want to get to this before we do that. So we talked about Kenny Pickett. You said Jordan Love was a bust. I never did. It's on record, me saying he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That was you.
I didn't say it was a
Kenny
bust.
Pickett is 100% turning into a bust, and there's a very specific reason that is happening. We did a show a couple years ago before Kenny Pickett was drafted in the number 20 overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers, correct?
Correct.
We're going to redo that a little bit. So if you saw as we started the show, we have two balls here. I
have to do my Michael Jackson impersonation. One glove.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Kenny Pickett wears a glove, but we are going to show the difference between college football. I'm going to hand you the college football to start, and we are going to talk about the NFL football. You could have reached and grabbed it for me, but that's okay. I'll reach across the table away from my mic.
The Duke,
the NFL football. Now, why this is such a good demonstration, Kenny Pickett, Whopper Jr. hands, you have the same size hands as him, 8.5 inch.
8.5 inch hands, not big at all.
No,
I mean,
I have Joe Burrow sized hands, 9-inch hands.
So still
not huge hands, but it's a perfect example. So what you have right now is the Kenny Pickett glove with the Kenny Pickett ball. Now the difference between a college football and an NFL football.
And by the way, just before we get going, we're using the Nike Vapor football because most colleges are using this ball now, including Pitt.
We're using the Duke, which is the NFL football forever and a day.
Right.
Now, the big difference between college footballs, if you can see, the college football is 11.5 inches long, which spreads out that PSI a little bit more. It is also in width 27.5 inches in circumference. And so it is smaller around the middle, 20.75 on the short end.
And one other big difference, the college football has these white stripes on it, which are tacky.
They are. The NFL football is 11 inches long, 11 to 11.25 inches long. This one is 11 inches long with 28 inches around the circumference in the middle and 21 inches. So it is thicker, it is wider, and you may be saying, listen, Sports Talk with Dad, that's not that big of a difference. It is a huge difference when it comes to a grip, especially when you're talking about an 8.5 inch hands. We put these both. The college and NFL rule is 12.5 to 13.5 PSI. We put them both to 12.5 PSI because if you've
got small hands, you
want it at the smaller, thinner PSI.
So you saw what it looks like when I'm holding the college football.
And that is his grip.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett has one finger, maybe two, but he's got two fingers together, and he holds it at the end of the ball.
Correct. Show your thumb on the back end. It's around that ball.
Camera.
There we go. Now it's a tight ball, but how does that feel?
I can control this ball, especially because I can make use of the striping on it for a little extra tack. I can control it. Kenny Pickett is double jointed apparently, so that's going to help him as well. But I can throw this ball pretty well.
Yeah, and he puts his finger almost all the way back on that ball. Almost throws it like Johnny Unitas. Now try the NFL ball and show.
All right. So the problem I'm going to have with the NFL ball is holding it, and if I can feel my thumb in the glove slipping.
Yeah.
And if you notice, Kenny Pickett's misses are all high.
Every last one.
Every last one. And that's why. Because he's losing his grip, and the ball is taking off on him. And if you see it.
And here's the biggest issue that you mentioned as well, is if you look at the biggest difference between the NFL and the college ball is at this white stripe.
Right.
You would see this white stripe on every single college ball. Now, the reason being is if you get a chance to hold on to a college ball, you can really feel it here. This is more slippery. It's the same as the Duke. It is the same type of substance, same type of leather. Here, though, this is a plastic type of bump. This is grippy. If you look at my finger here, if I can show you on the ball here all of a sudden my finger can slip really easily. Here, I am really, it's a different, you can see it sticking. This is really tacky here.
And this is not. And granted, they work in these footballs, so they are not slippery at all when the quarterback grabs them. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett isn't one of the best athletes in the world.
He is. But having that extra grip on the palm of your hand, which he holds it high, specifically to have that in a college football, you can whip this thing.
This thing feels like it's slipping out. And you've seen him. He's had fumbles.
Correct.
And again, he's missing high. And I can see why, because his hand is slipping constantly in that glove.
And a 12.5 PSI on a 11.5-inch football spreads that out. You have a better grip on the back end of this football.
Honestly, the NFL ball almost looks like we're getting close to a rugby ball.
It is very, very close. And a PSI of 12.5 on a NFL football, where it is shorter, it is rounder, it makes a much bigger difference. That ball is much more puffed out, and you're not going to have as much of a grip. And so we really wanted to re-go over this again. Kenny Pickett has 6 NFL touchdowns passes this year,
which is insane.
For a starter in 2023 as a quarterback is unacceptable. That was almost unacceptable in the 60s.
Yep, our star threw 15
in a year.
And Johnny Unitas probably threw 25.
Correct.
You know,
I mean, that is borderline unacceptable in the 60s or even in the 40s to throw 6 NFL touchdown passes. In 2023, it is outright ridiculous. There are backup quarterbacks that have thrown more touchdown passes in the NFL. But this is why. This is what we talked about 2 years ago, and this is exactly what we're seeing today. These footballs are different. The grip is different. And Kenny Pickett, even though the Whopper Jr. hand thing has been more of a joke, it is the reality that this guy has to deal with if the Pittsburgh Steelers need to get a new quarterback.
And here was the thing I said on our draft show that year. You draft a kid from his hometown, you're going to give him a lot more time to try to figure it out. Mike Tomlin's a great coach, but you can't coach hand size.
You can't. He doesn't have the intangibles to be an NFL quarterback. All of his passes are missing high because he's having to shot put that thing. None of them are on the money. If you see the catches George Pickens is making, who is a really good wide receiver and better than he looks right now, he's making circus catches.
Right.
They're not on the money. They're way too high. It's why the interceptions, 10 interceptions, outweigh the passes. You're having to run more passing plays, which just isn't good. It doesn't fit into the system Tomlin wants to run. They need to replace Kenny Pickett.
And yet the Steelers are winning some games. If I'm the Steelers, I'm definitely trying to move up and draft one of those top quarterbacks.
Yeah, I am too. You have to. You have to replace Kenny Pickett. He seems like a good kid. His hand size is not going to work. He needs to be replaced right now.
All right. So last week, I was only 2-3.
Won, and I want to brag about that here in a second. But I do want to get our viewers' opinions, our 80,000 subscribers' opinions.
Okay, that's only 20,000 from 100,000.
It is a stretch. We are coming into December 100,000. This man gets a tattoo of our logo on the spot that I choose. It's going to be right on the calf, right on the bone where it hurts real bad.
I never said you get to choose.
So let us know what you think in the comments below about Kenny Pickett or anything else we talked about the show. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and get this man a tattoo. And like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
We do it in ink instead?
No. It was gonna be ink, but it's gonna be ink implanted into your skin.
Just sounds painful.
It is.
So last week you were 4-1. Congratulations on a great week. Biggest part of that, I took the Lions, you took the Packers.
Yeah.
You
were 3-2. We are getting
better. No, I was 2-3.
You were 2-3?
Yeah, I had a losing week for the first time. Better. First time I had a losing week.
That's impressive. You've done a lot better than me this year.
Well, considering how bad I usually pick, I'm going to brag about it.
That's fair.
So last week there was a lot of good games. This week we had to struggle to find some ones that are really meaningful and ones that we wanted to talk about.
There are a couple that really have some playoff implications. We're going to make our picks. You always pick the first game. What do you got?
We have Seattle at the Cowboys. And honestly, the Cowboys at home are a very good team. They're in the fight for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the division.
Well, the Eagles are at 10-1 right now, but the Cowboys are right now in the 5th spot with an 8-3 record. The Seahawks are sitting at 6-5. The Niners are 8-3. They're also not fighting for the division at this point, but they are fighting for playoff spots. And Seattle is number 6. Behind them is the Vikings at 6-6. So they're holding on. They really need to get a win here.
They do, but I don't think.
Well.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't see how the Seahawks are going to go into Dallas and win. Mike McCarthy is coaching better than I've seen him since the first couple of years in Green Bay. He's got the talent. Dak Prescott. Speaking
That's
of
who shows up.
Well, but Prescott came out over the weekend and said, I haven't done anything yet. And I love hearing that from him. He's wanting to prove something, and I think they're going to prove it. I think the Cowboys actually win fairly easily.
This game is definitely more important for the Seahawks to win, being at 6-5. But I agree. I've been on the Mike McCarthy bandwagon since the last game before the playoffs last year. Mike McCarthy is not going to let this slip away. You could see if the Seahawks lose this game on Thursday night,
Don't say it.
the Vikings and the Packers are fighting for the playoffs. You could see 3 NFC North teams sneak into the playoffs if the Seahawks do not win this game. Second one, I picked this one, and the reason I picked this one is not necessarily for playoff spots for one team, but because another team is starting to turn it around. I have picked the Broncos at the Texans. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Broncos because Russell Wilson and Sean Payton seem to have come to a meeting of the minds. Sean Payton's offense is starting to come in. Russell Wilson's making smart throws, shorter throws. Basically, you're looking back at the old Seattle offense.
Yep.
And so they've worked together and they've done fine. I think the Broncos are going to roll, and I think they're going to win this game, although this is a huge game if you're a Houston Texan.
It is. So the Broncos are 7-4. The Texans are 8-3. Both fighting for playoff spots right now. Or they are 6-5. I'm sorry. They played the Jaguars who are 8-3. They're both 6-5 right now, tied with the Colts at 6-5, who currently hold the 7th seed. This has playoff implications for one specific team, and that is the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans looked really good against the Jaguars last week.
They did.
They lost because the missed field goal at the end of the game. Houston Texans are winning this game. Come on. This is C.J. Stroud we are talking about from the Ohio State University. God, we could have used him last week. He is looking amazing. He is clearly the rookie of the year. He is clearly going to win this game against the Broncos because Russell Wilson, who is the former Badger, is still terrible. And Ohio State beats Wisconsin every single time. And Ohio State is going to beat Wisconsin.
Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Borderline. C.J. Stroud looks more like a Hall of Fame.
Sean Payton is going to get him in there. Okay, the next game is the best game of the week as far as I'm concerned. The 49ers at the Eagles.
I don't think anybody's really fighting for the number 1 seed anymore. I think that is pretty cemented in the Eagles. And let me tell you, the Eagles I had doubts about earlier in this season. I was like, they just can't be this good. But yet, week in, week out, they're not only winning close games, they are blowing out people in the games. What I love about them is they refuse to stop playing. They'll run up the score if they have to,
right?
To show, hey, we're going to win this game. The 49ers, on the other hand, while I don't think they're fighting for the division, they need to show they can hang with the Eagles going into the playoffs.
It's a battle of the system. First, we have the 49ers and the talent in Jalen Hurts with the Eagles.
And A.J. Brown.
The whole team, but Jalen Hurts is my MVP this year.
Oh, I don't think it's even a question that Jalen Hurts is the MVP this year. He is above and beyond, showing he is better than any other player in this league. And they are going to come in and not only beat the 49ers at home, but they are going to dismantle the 49ers at home and continue to show they are the best team in the NFL.
And by the way, how good did the Kelly Greens look?
They need to go back to those full.
They are great uniforms. I'm taking the Eagles on this game as well for all the reasons you said. I don't think, Brock Purdy is turning into being an Alex Smith type of quarterback.
Yeah.
Very serviceable.
Which, hey, for a Mr. Irrelevant, that's great.
Great. He's gonna ride this for as long as he can. But when you're going against Jalen Hurts, I'm gonna go with the MVP and go with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. And yes, I agree with you. Bring back Kelly Greens.
They even looked good when they were wet and they looked dark green.
Right.
They even looked good at dark green with those helmets. Those need to become the full-time uniforms.
And I love the Eagle logo that they had on the field with them, the Eagle holding ball. It's just awesome.
Go back to it.
Next game up. Here's one that I missed last weekend because the Lions, are they going in the wrong direction completely? They looked pretty bad against the Packers. They're going to New Orleans to take on the Saints team.
The Saints team that is fighting for the division. They're half a game technically because the Falcons beat the Saints. So they are not in the playoffs right now, and the Falcons are as the 4 seed, but they are both 5-6. A bad division again this year. The NFC South needs to figure out what they're doing. I mean, they are constantly a bad division filled with bad teams. The Lions. Now listen, the Packers didn't score in the second half. So really what they had was a bad first quarter.
Right.
And then the Packers only put up 6 points because in the last 3 quarters, because Matt LaFleur proves again he doesn't know how to coach a game.
He turtles.
He's a terrible, terrible head coach that needs to be fired.
I don't know if you noticed it on Sunday night when I was watching the game, and Chris Collinsworth, when Josh Allen was coming down,
yeah,
he looked, and Collinsworth said this. He said, "Look, you'll make run on first down, but you're never going to run on second down because you're not going to put your quarterback in the situation where he has to make a long throw on third down." Well, that's Matt LaFleur's offense in the entire second half.
With a quarterback that doesn't have a deep ball, right?
Right. Run, and hope Jordan Love can find a 10-yard pass someplace. It's ridiculous.
It's an interesting game. You don't know in New Orleans if you have Chris Olave. He's in concussion protocol, who really was your offense last week. I think this is going to be a comeback for the Lions. Lions need to win this game. They really do. If they lose to the Saints, you really are going to be in trouble here. They need to go on a run to prove that they are the team that they were in the first half of this season. The Lions are going to win this game, but I think it's going to be closer than the Lions want it.
The Lions, what we've always talked about, the season starts after Thanksgiving.
It does.
Well, we're now after Thanksgiving, and the Lions look terrible on Thanksgiving Day. They need to be on a run, and they need to put the hammer down and really sew up the NFC North. I think the Lions go in and win fairly easily because I think the defense will step up. And Jared Goff is not going to be playing as bad as he did on Thanksgiving.
He better not be. He looked good in the fourth quarter again. You got to give him credit. He looked good in the fourth quarter. The last game is the game we always pick. It's a Packer game. The Chiefs at the Packers. Now, 2 years ago, this is the game where we saw the first of soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback Jordan Love in a really bad performance.
Really bad.
This is a rematch of one of the most iconic games in NFL history, which is, of course, Super Bowl I. The Chiefs are coming into Lambeau Field, where they have not been for several years. A Chiefs team that is struggling to stay healthy, struggling to really start to put up points, versus a Packers team with a quarterback in Jordan Love who is starting to ascend to the ranks of top 5 possibly quarterbacks in the NFL.
Keep selling, I ain't buying. This
got?
is going to be in Lambeau. It's going to be 30 degrees, maybe some snow flurries. It's going to be cold.
It's going to be very cold, but you have a Chiefs team that also sees snow and cold.
Yes, yeah. And Patrick Mahomes is a much better quarterback, even in bad weather. Right. This game's not going to be close. The Chiefs are going to come in and win by 2.5 touchdowns.
To quote Willy Wonka, "You are wrong, sir. You stole fizzy lifty drinks. The ceiling now has to be cleaned." I'll show you the contract that gets smaller and smaller. That's half with the half magnifying glass if you like as well. If you have not seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's the greatest movie of all time. Make sure you watch it.
Well, it's a great movie that they shouldn't remake.
No, I won't.
They're doing it again.
They're not remaking it. It's a prequel. But it's going to be really bad.
They shouldn't be doing it.
Wearing the purple that Gene Wilder wore makes me really sad. Hugh Grant as a Oompa Loompa would probably be funny, but I'm not going to watch it. It changes the whole beginning, and I don't like it. But anyway, there will be the same outcome in this game that there was in the first Super Bowl. Because the same we had in the first Super Bowl is what we have now, which is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Jordan Love's going to do what Jordan Love does, which is win games.
And throw long passes that don't lead his receivers, and they have to go up and jump.
Listen, he's got to figure that part out. He's got to figure that out, like, now.
I mean, it's just not good. He does not hit his receivers in stride. Right. Again, if they had a veteran wide receiver, maybe that would help. I don't know. But that first throw of the game, which Christian Watson, to his credit, went up and grabbed,
right,
was really underthrown.
Yeah.
Really. really underthrown.
So was the last one, the last pass he made at the end of the game, which he had no excuse to underthrow that bad. I agree. He needs to figure that part out. But every other throw, he is looking great. He is seeing the defense. He's checking down. He's changing plays. He's telling a bad coach in Matt LaFleur to shut the hell up, and I'm running this offense now.
If I'm
amazing.
If I'm Jordan Love, I'm listening to Aaron Rodgers, and I am just running the offense from the field.
110%.
I'm audibling out of anything that LaFleur calls in, and just saying, look, this is my team.
That's what he's going to do. I won't pick against the Packers anyway, so anytime the Packers are playing, I'm picking the Green Bay Packers, but I am picking them emphatically here. The Packers are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at Lambeau Field, putting us in the playoffs to go on a magical Super Bowl run. That might be a
magical mystery tour if you did that.
That might be a little exaggerating here, but I'm excited. We won 2 games in a row. We have a shot at the playoffs, and Jordan Love's looking great again. Packers going to win this game.
Jordan Love, for what he is been very impressive. He does have a command of the offense.
He does.
He's making good throws within that first 5 to 10 yards. It's when he has to throw a 20-yard pass or a 15-yard pass that I'm really concerned, because he just doesn't put it in the right place for his receivers, and he doesn't catch his receivers in stride.
Correct. But he's going to fix it, and he's looking great in every other portion of the game.
He's got a great quarterback coach in Tom Clements.
He does.
So
the Packers are going to win this game. I am going to not only go 4-1 this week, I'm going to go 5-0.
That'd be a first.
Yeah, it would. Nobody's gone 5-0 on this yet. But we're going to this week. I'm going to be the one to do it. But you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. But as all of you know from watching this show, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
So it came out again. Another injury because of a trans player on a women's team. It was a football game, soccer game. And this dude, I'm sorry, he was twice the size of the women he was playing against. And the other team didn't even want to go on the field with him. And I don't blame them. Again, I give all the credit in the world to Riley Gaines for calling out Bill Thomas for not transitioning, not being on hormones for any length of time. He was a failure as a male swimmer, and then it's all of a sudden decided to be a women's swimmer the next year, and he won the NCAAs, and that was just a joke. We've got to do something, either set up something for trans as their own competition that people can ignore, but stop letting guys play with women. Women fought too hard for Title X. It was one of the best laws that was ever passed. Title IX, I'm sorry. Title X. They should pass Title X that says no trans players can participate. I like what the Olympics are doing. They're making sure that there aren't any trans athletes that are competing against women in Olympic competition, and it shouldn't happen. So please support Riley Gaines and what she's doing. And if the situation comes up in your school, fight it. Boys should not be playing against girls. Period. End of conversation. Thank you for the catch in Title IX.
You're welcome. Getting back to this, I see, which is always fun.
I'm furious about it.
The sad part is, folks, election season is coming up, and this old man I know is only about to get more fired up about this stuff.
I'm going to be fired up because I'm going to be so furious about people fighting with people that would normally be their friends, but because they voted a different way.
That is true.
They're not going to talk to them anymore.
That's
true. Ridiculous.
But what I am happy about is that unlike earlier today, you're actually acting your age, which is good to see. Thank you so much to everybody for watching this show and for subscribing to this show and enjoying this show as much as we enjoy making it. This has been Sports Talk with Dad, and we'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.